Okay. So my conversation partners today are Jim Summer and Franklin Brown, and they joined Westland Lutheran Church about a year and a half ago on Palm Sunday, a very festive day in the church. Since that time, they took up a job opportunity in Astoria and moved there, but it's so wonderful that we have Zoom because we can still be together and have a conversation. So thank you for being with us today. Yeah. So Jim and Franklin, share a little bit about how you got connected with Westland Lutheran Church.
Well, we were looking for a place to worship. And as we drove up and down the roads, we noticed that the Presbyterian flag or church flew a big pride flag. So we thought, okay, well, we'll go there and see what it's like. So we chose a Sunday. We actually communicated with Vicar Paisley.
Yeah.
Because that's where we thought we were going. But we went to the Presbyterian church, and on that given Sunday, there was a note that said that they were meeting in the park. So we thought, okay, well, we'll go back to the park. And well, it was the same Sunday that, you know, the joint service in the park was happening. So you all were there and they were there. And people from Westland Lutheran Church were the only people that spoke to us while we were in the park.
Yeah.
So, and Vicar Paisley obviously introduced herself.
So did you.
And you did, and many others. And we decided, well, okay, that's the place we'll go then. And we figured out where your building was. And we started attending after that.
That's neat.
Yeah, it was, I was out looking for a kind of a home church in the areas, and we looked on the internet. We wanted to find a welcoming and affirming church, and so I saw the Westland Lutheran Church and the Presbyterian Church on the internet that were welcoming. And so when we went to the park, I felt so welcomed by Vicar Paisley and the Westland Lutheran. They offered us chairs to sit in, and I just felt like that was kind of being, God was leading us to you guys. So, and we decided to go to the first Sunday, the next following Sunday, and it just kind of went from there.
And we've been very happy to have you connect in with us too. This summer, we've been having conversations with people and encouraging people to think about why they believe what they believe, and why they can talk about that with other people. And I was just wondering how can you share a little bit of your faith journey that's brought you to want to walk with Jesus, with other Christian people?
Yeah, I could share a little bit of my faith journey by, ever since I was a little kid, I've investigated like numerous churches. I went from the Baptist church, I actually got confirmed in the Catholic church. So I was always searching for, Christ. And I just felt that there was something more out there that I needed to feel connected to. And so I actually, all my life, I searched for the home. And unfortunately, I got caught up into unusual situation and taken advantage of. But most of my journey with that particular church was being not really fulfilled, but being used. And so when I met Jim, I felt that we needed together to reach out to another church, and that's how we decided to join the Westland Lutheran Church. So.
And unlike Franklin, I had never really looked for a church. I grew up as part of the Mormon faith. I lived in southern Idaho, and my family was Mormon, and that's just what you did. And then as I got older and came to understand that I was gay and that there was a real conflict between myself and the church, I tried doing what the church wanted instead of what my heart told me was right. And that didn't work very well either. And so after doing all the things the church wanted and it not working out, and then meeting Franklin, I still wanted to find a spiritual center.
Yeah.
There were many great values that I'd learned as a member of the Mormon faith, but I wanted to take those and find a place where I could use them in a worship setting, and become part of a worship family. One of the things I felt that I lost the most in coming out was having a worship family, because I lost all of that. And that was really difficult. Until you realize that worship family was built on dishonesty, and then it's not quite as difficult.
Yeah, that can be really difficult and painful, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think both of us kind of had a painful journey in the beginning, so I mean, at the time when I was involved with the Unification Church, I thought I felt fulfilled. I thought I was being nurtured, and I just felt complete. But reality is, I was basically, defrauded, and not really developing that relationship with Christ and God like I believed I was. So, yeah,
that's hard to explain.
Yeah.
The story today that we have from the Gospel of Matthew is an encounter where Jesus and his disciples have a woman who's from a different culture following them and crying out and asking for healing for her daughter. And she's very persistent. And in an unusual kind of way, Jesus is kind of rude to her and the disciples, and they kind of try to push her away. And she believes that he can heal her daughter, and that she hangs in there. And eventually, through the conversation they have, Jesus heals her daughter and sees her faith, and seems to warm up to the fact that she is so faithful and so persistent. Through these experiences you've had of where maybe the church, in whatever form it was, pushed you away, what do you think kept you drawn in to want a life of faith and want a connection to other believers?
For me, I don't know how I could put my finger on it. I just knew I was a spiritual person, and I knew that I needed to feel connected to something higher than the human race. I just thought there was something more out there than just family, physical family, friends. So I remember when I was going through catechism and being confirmed in the Catholic Church, but it was so ritualistic, and I was born deaf, so I wasn't really connecting with it. So I would sit in Sunday church, and they would have mass in Latin. I had no idea what, I just was there faithfully every Sunday, and just following the masses.
Franklin's, my favorite story Franklin has ever told me is that the first time he went to confession, he went and sat in the little booth and didn't hear anything.
Oh.
And the pastor sat on the other side,
the priest,
and said all the things that the priest said, but Franklin never responded because he didn't know it was. And they sat there for an hour.
No. more like 15, 20
Okay,
minutes.
a long time. And the priest finally came around and got.
Open the door. I didn't know what was going on.
He had no.
I thought I was in a closet for some kind of bad behavior or something. And
Well, it's kind of another example of the church not really paying attention to someone
Yes.
with a different perspective or different need, and embracing that and making sure you were able to have your needs met in that situation. Yeah.
I tell him he's been coming out of the closet a long time.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's awesome. So in this story, another interesting thing is, I think, how the woman is so persistent and a very powerful advocate for her daughter who's sick. Again, another outside situation. She is sick and nobody seems to want to help to heal her, but this woman just won't let go. Do you feel your faith motivates you to be advocates for people who are on the edge of society or on the margins?
I think absolutely. You know, one of the things that, as it was kind of weird, but one of the things that has motivated me to be more aware of others, I think, and their differences, is actually the time I spent on my LDS mission. I spent 6 months in inner city Baltimore and 6 months in DC out of my 2 years. And the thing that struck me the most is African Americans who were trying to join the LDS faith. It was shortly after the Mormon Church had changed policies. And so these people would be coming to church and they would wear their big hats and the things that were part of their customs, their culture that they were used to. And we would have people, Caucasians, come up to us as missionaries and say, you need to get your people to dress like Mormons when they come to church. Act, and to teach them to act like Mormons, because they would sit there and they would say hallelujah, or whatever else when they felt the spirit, when they felt because that's their culture.
Exactly.
And yet we were suddenly, you need to fix that. And yet there was nothing to fix. You know? And I remember being so offended by that. And now that I'm away from that, thinking, wow, there's so many people who are in that fringe who are looking for Christ or looking for help, or, you know, we work through a place where people come looking for assistance all the time now, and making sure that they get what they need without any kind of attachments and ribbons and trappings. You know, just be there for them and listen to what they want. The Q Center where we work now, one night we were there and a guy came in and it was raining, and it was raining really hard. When it rains on the coast, it sometimes is really strong. And he looked at us and he said, I think I'm dying.
Oh, yeah.
And he was younger than us. And we asked him what was wrong, and he'd been at the hospital, and he said they didn't know what to do for him, and his legs were in pain. And we looked at his legs and they were swollen and red, but that can come from being out in the cold, right? But he didn't have a place to go. So a couple of phone calls were made, and we got him a place to be at one of the local shelters, and it was later than normal, but it would have been easy to just say, well, there's nothing we can do because you didn't make the cutoff. It's supposed to be, you got to be here by then. And, you shouldn't have locked out of the hospital without them. There are a lot of things that we could have said and done. But instead, we all just worried about getting him what he needed for the night. So that at least he had one more night here on God's planet. And who knows what was ahead for him.
Right. That compassion just flowed because you saw his need and you felt called to follow that. Yeah, that's awesome. So, Westland Lutheran as a congregation has wanted to be a voice, an advocate, a welcoming place, a safe place for people who are LGBTQIA and so forth. And now with the racial issues, having risen up quite a lot, wanting to be a welcoming and safe place across different groups like that. Is there anything you would say to us or encourage us, give us a word of encouragement about how to walk that path that's helped you, that we could be mindful of?
Well, I have, when we first went to WLC, Westland Lutheran, the first few times I went, I was kind of, I felt kind of very welcome, but I felt like we were a fish in a fishbowl. Like we were the, kind of like, because we're gay and we didn't feel any, like in the congregation, we didn't really pick up from any other people. So but that didn't make a difference for me. And
everyone was kind. Everyone was nice.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
Yeah, and it just, after going to the RIC 2.0 conference there, which you guys hosted for them, I kind of was really like moved that Westland Lutheran Church was actually participating and wanted to be active with that, and you're continuing the RIC, so it kind of blossomed after it got there. It just got blossomed more.
I think the thing that I have come to, at least for me, and I don't know if everybody would agree, but for me, when people are not afraid to ask me questions, I find that breaks down barriers. When we can, because it opens up a conversation. I never know how much somebody really wants to know about me in that regard, unless they ask questions.
Okay.
And the only way we really overcome over hate is through knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to ask.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Yeah. Asking curious, open questions to really honestly desire to know another person. You're right. That is an important path.
I had somebody not long ago ask me how difficult it was to be married to a female so long. He said, I've thought about you over and over, and I just don't how did you do that? And I said, you know what? And I told him the secret as to how I'd done it. And then he laughed. And my secret, anyway, I said to him, but everybody's different. And he'd been really afraid to ask me his question because he thought I'd be offended, but I'm not offended. It's a genuine question, and let's have open discussions.
I think that's a great invitation, and I think most people probably are that way. That they don't mind honest, genuine questions.
Right.
Yeah.
I think also that when Vicar Paisley was present in the church, I think he really opened up and broadened the community and kind of letting people know that, this community has been ostracized and rejected. Even now, as we're representing the Q Center here in Astoria, and we're kind of testifying our faith, and especially our being members of your church, we kind of been, I guess, witnessing to them. And because a lot of the people that in the Q Center were rejected as well from the church and scarred, and they're afraid of religion. A lot of them reject religion and faith and went into some of them went into like spirituality and some actually became atheists because
Mhm.
of just their religious experience.
Mm.
They don't want anything to do with that community. So by us being in the Q Center and being able to share with them our journey and where we're at, we're kind of healing, bridging the gap to faith, you know. And because I the other day, one of the Tessa was listening to us, and she shared with us about how painful it is for many of the people in the LGBT community, how painful it is because they're scarred, and
Mm.
I'm trying to
And she's right though. I mean, I get it. I know. You know, you're the exception, not the rule.
yeah,
Unfortunately, in the faith families.
yeah.
You know, and I think you all recognize that.
Mhm.
And it's difficult. How does a person know where they're going to be not be attacked or marginalized? And it's complicated. And if you think you're going to church to be lifted up and spiritually edified, and instead you're attacked, you don't do much of that before you just say, I'm going to church.
Yeah, and that's the sad truth, that the church itself has been hurtful, or people in the church, because it's people. But
Yes.
we're learning also that the church as an institution has to take an examination of itself, because both racism and sexism and anti-gay has been kind of baked into the system in ways that we have to examine and try to reorganize and restructure ourselves to be, first of all, very mindful of that, and then apologize for ways in which we've been the ones who have hurt others. And then secondly, to create new ways of being the church that do include everybody, and everybody's voice, and everybody's gifts are brought, you know, to be a part of the new thing.
Yeah. I was telling somebody, I've come to the conclusion that there is organized religion, and then there is the church. And we have to recognize that organized religion is in many regards of man. And so there's a lot of flaws, because man is full of flaws, right? And whether it's the pastors or the people at the head of it or just members of the congregation, there's flaws. But the church is perfect because it's God's.
Yeah.
And so you have to find that, and you have to find where you fit in the church and what helps you commune with God.
You know, Pastor Donna, you hit something, you struck my heart when you said that there needs to be like an apology towards the community, the LGBT community, and the Black race, and all the different things that are involved that have been ostracized. And I think if the church comes to the terms of an apology, or kind of a sense of responsibility for what the past has been, I think many people will feel that embracement, feel embraced by the church.
I think the problem is going to be, though, and this is just how I look at it, I think your congregation can apologize, right? But the Methodist Church probably isn't going to anytime soon.
Yeah.
Okay, for example. And the Mormon Church was told, you really need to apologize for your behaviors before 1978 to the African American communities. And they won't even do that.
Yeah.
They won't even admit they were wrong. They're just saying, well, God just changed his mind. Well, baloney.
Yeah.
You were racist, and you should apologize for being racist.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know? And so none of that, although you may change as a congregation, churches in general, because they're of man, they are not going to.
Yeah.
So we can't wait for that to happen.
Right.
Because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to search out congregations where you really feel like we did with you.
Right.
We felt that apology.
Where we
Yeah.
felt the apology was at least, I mean, it wasn't ever necessarily spoken, but
Right.
you
Yeah.
could feel
You
the
could
hearts
feel
of the
it.
people there that
Yeah.
were, many were embarrassed
Yeah.
by the way,
We've been treated,
you know?
people have been treated, so.
Yeah.
I'm
And-
not trying to say that we're a special group of people, because there's a whole many special group of people. There's many. But if you live that kind of, if you have that experience being in a community that's been rejected and hurt, you get the sense of resentment towards the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I have resentment too, so I have to learn to apologize as well. So for my sorry,
That was a little puppy moment there. Huh? That's okay. No, but I appreciate what you're saying, Franklin, that that personal sense of resentment, which you have every right to feel, might be something that you also don't want to hinder you from growing your faith. And if that's in and through a connection with other people or a congregation, you don't want that to be a stumbling block for yourself, it sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's very powerful. And it's interesting. I think for Wesleyan Lutheran Church, like you said, we haven't written an apology per se, but the process of writing the
mission statement.
the welcome statements certainly was, and I think we could probably go a little further with that self-examination of where have we caused harm or hurt. If there's still people we could apologize to, we could do that. But that's sort of the positive side is, well, we've worked on this statement, we have done self-confession and examination, and we want to do a better job now. We want to be in a better place.
Don't get me wrong, I think what you've done is beautiful and right where it needs to be.
Yeah. No, you guys bring, but that's the interesting thing about the whole race thing right now, because organizations and churches and so forth are being called to not just be as nice and safe as they can be, but to actually do the work of being an advocate.
Yep.
And that's where I think, like, you guys set us an example of, being advocates for people that you meet and work with and encounter who are on the edges, and holding out that hand to say, you can belong, you are an important person, you are a worthwhile human being, and you extend that compassion to them. And that is linked to us as a church, to Christianity, because you present yourself as, Christian people.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that's how Christ lived,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
right? The example of whether or not I'm a Christian is living as much as I can like he did.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think that's great. Yeah. And that's, like I said, the funny story, the funny part of not funny, haha, but, that Jesus in this story seems to be not supportive of someone on the edges.
Yeah.
But then it's like maybe that's his humanness. Maybe he was just really burnt out that day and he couldn't handle one more person, and because he was human too, and then he turns around and he does listen and he does extend the healing and the care and the power that she needs.
I often wonder if he was just trying to teach his apostles a lesson.
And it could be, yeah, it could be, yeah. Because they were really not happy with her. And maybe that was a way of like, okay, this is how you look when you act that way, guys.
Yeah.
It's not all that pretty, is it? It's very possible. Was there anything else you would like to say to our congregation or any words of
Well, we
encouragement?
you guys terribly. I mean, I miss you, and now I'm determined to follow you guys on YouTube, you know, a little bit more closely.
Yeah, take a look. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. There's some wonderful music. And in fact, Jim, because you're a singer, if I remember correctly, we never quite got you singing, but Adam and Gary Epplesheimer have the technology that we're having people like sing in their own homes, and they put all the voices together. Like Adam plays the piano and sends it out to everybody. And then at home, you put on your earphones and you sing to your phone or your computer. You can video yourself, and then they take that and they put everybody together. You go on those and look at some of those services. You'll see some amazing. There's one even, I can't tell you which Sunday it was. Adam himself did all 6 parts. It's
Oh my word.
the 6 Adam song.
Wow.
So you see him in 6 slivers and he changed his shirt for each track he laid down. It's hilarious. It's a wonderful song. I mean, it's just beautifully done. But there's some, you know, Jim, we would love to have you be a singer in one of our songs.
Come watch.
Well, take a watch and see what you think.
I'll do.
But Gary is more than happy to teach people how to do it. It's not hard, and all the voices blend together. They do a really good job.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys so much for taking this time and sharing your hearts with us.
Tell everybody bye.
Yeah, I will certainly do that, and I will. Like I said, I'll probably have to edit it down. I always talk too long, and so I'll edit myself out and get you guys up front and center, and then yeah, it'll be a part of the sermon on Sunday.
Oh,
Awesome.
really? Wow.
Yeah, you're part of my sermon.
No.